where hate, anger, and outrage are now seen as proof of how loving, compassionate, and caring you are. Now, I must confess that as I was preparing this sermon, it kind of caught me off guard as I began to contemplate, well, okay, what are idols, some of our idols today? Because I know the standard, almost cliche, if you were to ask people, what are our idols today? Well, an idol is anything that you place above God, anything that you value above God. But I think that's really just scratching the surface. Idol worship in ancient times involved much more than just people and material things. The worship of idols involved accepting entire worldviews, different modes of thinking that completely contradicted what God's people were to believe. Idol worship today that really is concerning is something that has suddenly become quite prevalent in our culture in just the past few years, and the demands for its worship is becoming more shrill all the time. It boils down to the question of what is a good person. In our Western culture, the idea, at least, of being a good person was that you were honest, you were civil, you were self-controlled, you showed tolerance to those who disagreed with you. A good person was someone who was able to bite their tongue in a heated debate, dealing with some hot social or political topic. A good person was treating others how you would like to be treated. But in just the past few years, things have completely flipped. Things have completely switched. To be viewed as a good person today is how outraged you can appear to others, by how hysterical you can get over the latest outrage that the media says that you need to get hysterical over. For example, there's numerous viral videos right now on social media like YouTube of young women completely unhinged, crying and screaming hysterically into the camera over some social issue that they probably don't have a clue about. Yet here's the thing. These young women, it's not as though they were secretly filmed with someone's iPhone and they posted it. No, these young women were doing it themselves, posting it online. How could someone possibly think that that is good and acceptable behavior? Well, that's what young people are being taught these days on how to be a good, virtuous person. We've all heard the expression recently, silence equals violence. If you're not there expressing your outrage over something, then you're guilty, you're complicit with the oppressors. For many younger generations, this sort of bizarre behavior is increasingly becoming the new normal, where hate, anger, and outrage are now seen as proof of how loving, compassionate, and caring you are. But as Christians, that is not how we are to behave. We are not to bow before that idol. We are to bow before Christ. And while Christ certainly commanded us to care for, to defend, to speak out for the oppressed, let's not forget, he also said that we are to love our enemies. We are to love the oppressors. Remember Jesus, he received a lot of flack in his day for going to the homes of the tax collectors. Talk about oppressors back in those days. They were the epitome of the oppressors, and yet Jesus went and preached the gospel to them. Because God loves everyone, the oppressed and the oppressor. Increasingly, as Christians, more so the younger generations, we find ourselves in the same dilemma as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego faced in the book of Daniel. Bow before that golden image or else. Idol worship is coming back in our culture today, and the young will need all the prayers that they can get. In the coming days, It will take a tremendous amount of moral courage not to bow before the new idols of our age.